The transatlantic slave trade was just a segment of the global slave trade that transported between 10 million and 12 million enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas from the 16th to the 19th century. A large percentage of the people taken captive were women in their childbearing years and young men. Due to the depopulation and continuing fear of capacity, much of the Western Africa was devastated. Economic development became nearly impossible. The Atlantic Passage was notorious for its brutal and for the overcrowded, unsanitary conditions on slave ships, in which hundreds of Africans were finally packed into tiers below decks for a voyage of about 5,000 miles. They were typically chained together and usually in the low ceiling and did not permit them to sit upright. The heat was intolerable and the oxygen levels became so low that the candles would not burn. Historians believe that between 15 and 25% of the African slaves bound for the Americas died aboard slave ships. Atrocity and sexual abuse of enslaved captives were widespread. There was an infamous incident that occurred in 1781 that showed just how horribly slaves were treated. In slave ships named Song, both Africans and crew members were dying of an infectious disease. Captain Luke, hoping to stop the disease, ordered that more than 130 Africans be thrown overboard. He then filed an insurance claim on the value of the murdered slaves. The transatlantic slave trade was a trading route that consisted of a triangle trading route between Africa, South America, and the United States. Africans were kidnapped from their own tribes to be traded for goods, such as weapons. The countries buying the slaves or needing them was due to the massive demand of labor. Tobacco, sugar, and cotton were a big demand to trading. Due to that, they needed many people to work on the plantations. Since there was not enough people to work on the plantations or enough indentured servants, they decided to trade money and weapons to Africa. In return for it would be slaves. This was a devastating thing to occur in America because the enslaved people suffered to do hard work for the people who treated them like they were not humans. They did hard labor work that nobody would want to do, and they did it without knowing, mostly nobody, not knowing the culture of America or not knowing anybody or not being able to communicate with other people in America.